A massive report was just released indicating that Obi Toppin is frustrated with his role on the New York Knicks. The Knicks have been linked to several superstar trades this offseason. If the Knicks pull the trigger on one of these trades, Obi Toppin could be used as a piece to get the deal done. Also, reports indicate that the New York Knicks are preparing a massive trade offer for an all-star. We're going to get into this and so much more today. Let's get started. Obi Toppin is apparently frustrated with his role on the New York Knicks. According to Steph Bondy of the New York Daily News, Toppin was frustrated at times with his role, although he refrained from complaining to the media last season. If the New York Knicks considered trading him, Bondy noted that a league executive tapped Toppin's trade value as a late first rounder. If you've been watching the New York Knicks for the last few seasons, you are not shocked by this report at all. Obi Toppin was drafted by the New York Knicks in 2020, and his goal was to become the starting power forward for the New York Knicks. At the time, nobody thought or believed that Julius Randle would become what he is today. He won Most Improved Player after Toppin was drafted. He became a two-time All-Star after Toppin was drafted. He made All-NBA team twice after Toppin was drafted. When you add all of these things up, and also you include the fact that Julius Randle, each and every season he's played for the New York Knicks, is normally a leader in minutes played per game. Add all of that together, and it equals an Obi Toppin who is a backup to your power forward in Julius Randle, who's going to get limited time and is going to have limited production because he's not going to be able to step on the court enough. This is exactly what we've seen from Obi Toppin over the last few years. And the crazy part is, Tom Thibodeau doesn't play them together. You might be able to salvage some time for Obi Toppin if you play Toppin and Randle together in bursts. Sometimes. Doesn't have to be for all the time. Doesn't have to be starting off quarters, but maybe middle of the third quarter. You play them for a few extra minutes. That way, Toppin gets more minutes underneath his belt, gets to produce and contribute more, and feel like he's a part of the team. Take a look at these numbers that Obi Toppin has put up in year 3 of playing with the New York Knicks. This past season, Obi Toppin appeared in 67 games. He averaged 7.4 points, 2.8 rebounds, in 15.7 minutes per game, while shooting 44.6% from the field. All of these figures, by the way, were lower than the numbers he put up during the 2021-2022 season. He barely cracked 15 minutes per game. He was averaging right under 16 minutes for the season. In year 3, I get that he's a backup, and I get that he's playing behind Julius Randle, but if I'm in year 3 of my NBA career, and I had a dominant college career, I would want to replicate that on the bigger stage, and the only way for me to do that is to get playing time, which I'm never going to get apparently, because I'm playing behind Julius Randle. Not to mention that Tom Thibodeau is going to pull me if I do anything wrong at any time. There have been cases during last season that Obi Toppin was making some really good reads and plays, some good passes, while some other players around him were making mistakes. Instead of Toppin being kept in the game and those other players being removed, Toppin was removed and those other players who were making mistakes stayed in the game. So it seems like no matter what Obi Toppin can do, good, bad, or right in the middle, it doesn't matter. Either way, he's going to play this amount of minutes regardless, and then he's going to be benched in favor for somebody else to come in and take those minutes. Whether it's Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, oddly playing the power forward, but for some reason, Obi Toppin won't be included within that rotation at times, which boggles the mind because he is your draft pick. You do need to increase his value, and the only way to do that is to play the kid. So if you're not going to play him, it makes a lot of sense to move him. Steph Bondy also reported that the Indiana Pacers have been speculated as a partner since they were also interested in Toppin before last season's trade deadline. Indiana owns the number 26 and number 29 picks in Thursday's NBA draft. The Knicks don't own a pick this year and could ship away the 25-year-old in hopes of changing that. I really hope that the New York Knicks don't take a former top 10 pick and trade him for a late first round pick. That to me makes no sense. I get that the 2023 draft is one of the most loaded drafts in recent memory. And I get no matter where you draft, you potentially could hit on a star player. I understand that. But in my head, it doesn't make sense to trade a former top 10 pick who hasn't got the right time on the court to see what he can do, to trade him to Indiana for a late first round pick that may have less promise, less ability, and less talent, and may not be able to get to the next level anyways. I don't want to try that experiment. And it's clear the New York Knicks don't want to do it either. If the Knicks were prioritizing drafting, they would have had a pick for this year. They clearly do not care about the draft as much as they used to. They care about adding talent either via free agency or what they've been linked to basically since the trade deadline of last season. A trade. And not a small trade, a massive trade. Steve Popper of Newsday adds even more fuel to the Obi Toppin report that we just heard by reporting the following. League sources indicated that Toppin was hoping for a trade at the deadline last season, and now both sides are in alignment that it's time for a change of scenery for Toppin. This is a massive report by Steve Popper, who's basically indicating that the New York Knicks and Obi Toppin have both agreed that it's time to trade Obi Toppin to a different team so he can get more of a chance and opportunity to showcase his abilities and what he can do. If you were hoping that Obi Toppin was going to be traded to Indiana or one of these other teams with a late first round pick, think again. It's clear that the New York Knicks are not prioritizing drafting, but are prioritizing adding key free agents around the talent that they have, and they are prioritizing looking for other stars around the league that they could potentially get on their roster next season. According to Steve Popper of Newsday, many around the association expect the Knicks to be active on the trade market this week. If the team decides to swing a deal to acquire a first-round pick, Toppin, who was hoping for a trade at the trade deadline, would likely be involved. Steve Popper helps me double down on the fact that the New York Knicks are going to be an active trade team this offseason. And there have been a number of reports flying, tying the Knicks to several all-star trades. But a single report was just released indicating that the Knicks are preparing a massive trade offer for an all-star. According to the NBA Trade Reports account on Twitter, they released the following in regards to a potential trade the New York Knicks are preparing to make. Sources indicate that the New York Knicks are preparing a trade offer for Chicago's Zach LaVine. The Bulls are seeking 1 to 2 young players, draft picks, and salary fillers. Now I know what you're thinking. You're hearing the same word that I'm hearing, sources. And like you probably think as well, I don't like to just hear from sources. I like to understand who the source is and if it's credible or not. So I did a little bit of digging and I looked into this a little bit further. According to Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports, the Bulls are currently contacting teams about trading shooting guard Zach LaVine. Casey Johnson of NBA Sports Chicago also confirmed that the Bulls would be focused on getting a good young player, multiple first-round picks, and salary filler for the two-time All-Star. Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago reported the following. But several rival executives who NBC Sports Chicago talked to at the Combine are skeptical about the long-term marriage between Zach LaVine and the Bulls. Johnson wrote, LaVine, who has been loyal to the Bulls, has grown tired of consistently landing in trade rumors, although talk of the New York Knicks' interest at the trade deadline was overstated. LaVine also represents the Bulls' most dynamic scorer in terms of his ability to heat up either beyond the arc or attacking the rim. I absolutely believe this report from Johnson here. He is a credible source, and more than that, I do believe that LaVine is a little bit frustrated and unhappy with the Bulls, especially hearing his name constantly brought up in trades or potential trade packages. Will LaVine be moved by the Chicago Bulls? I think the only way that happens is if they get the value that they're seeking. Per Casey Johnson, and we already reported it already, the Bulls are seeking a young player, multiple first-round picks, and salary filler for any team that they trade with. So the New York Knicks are going to have to make that happen in some way or some regard. There have been a couple of trades about LaVine and what it would take for the New York Knicks to get LaVine. I've seen a couple of realistic ones, unrealistic ones, and some that didn't make any sense at all. One of the reported trade packages for LaVine would be that the New York Knicks receive Zach LaVine and Derrick Jones Jr., and the Bulls receive RJ Barrett, Evan Fournier, Obi Toppin, and 2 2024 first-round picks. Now, hold up. I understand. Some of you love RJ Barrett, and I absolutely understand that. He is a New York Knicks draft pick, and he is one of the highest draft picks that we've gotten since Ewing. So I absolutely understand the love affair that a lot of people have with RJ Barrett. However, we have to understand a few things. Number one, RJ has been made available in trade talks as of last season with Donovan Mitchell. And there were reports earlier, even this year, that the New York Knicks would listen to offers for RJ Barrett if he was mentioned in a trade. So there are reports out there indicating already that the New York Knicks would entertain a trade if RJ Barrett was already in that trade. However, it's also good to note that the New York Knicks had some interest in adding Zach LaVine to their roster by the trade deadline. They couldn't get a deal done for whatever the reason may be, but there was interest there, albeit Johnson states that interest was slightly overstated, but interest was still there. And the reason RJ Barrett is in this trade over Julius Randle is because, in my opinion, I think that rival GMs would rather have Barrett and his production and his performance and his potential development and where he could go versus a Julius Randle where you believe he's kind of near his ceiling maybe and you kind of already know what he's going to give you. So I think that's the difference there. It's who you can build with. Not to mention, if you're adding Zach LaVine, there is no reason to have RJ Barrett because LaVine essentially plays Barrett's position. So if you get LaVine, RJ's likely gone. So that's another reason why he's in that trade. The Bulls stated that they wanted young players. You get that with Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett. They said that they wanted salary filler. You get that with Evan Fournier. They said they wanted draft picks. You get 2 2024 first-round picks. Those check every single box that the Bulls are looking for. Does it check them in the way the Bulls want, though? That remains to be seen. But if you're just looking on paper to what the Bulls need to move LaVine, the Knicks have that. And they could increase it even more if the Bulls asked. Now, I'm not saying that the Knicks would give up everything for LaVine, but they damn sure can sweeten the pot to make it that the Bulls couldn't accept any other offer but New York's offer. With reports out there that Obi Toppin is frustrated with his role, the New York Knicks potentially in a lot of rumored trade talks, it makes a lot of sense that as soon as even draft night on Thursday or beyond that the New York Knicks will prepare to make a swing for a superstar trade. And one of the pieces likely to be included in that trade is absolutely Obi Toppin. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment below, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans, peace.